So you mentioned the word conditioning.
Yes.
Off the top. So give me an example of what limits people, what type of conditioning people will say to themselves that says, well, I guess I can think of one off the bat. I can't do this. I'm not good enough for that. This is for another class of people, not for me. What do you say to somebody who says that or thinks like that, and you can see the limitation?
You mean like everybody?
Well, it's a lot of people.
All of us have our areas of inadequacies. I don't care what level of performance anybody's on. We're all human, and so we all have areas where we feel feelings of inadequacy in certain areas. What I say is, first of all, stop saying that. The word is an expressed thought, and so what you're doing is expressing what's on your mind, and when whatever you're expressing with thought and feeling by law has to manifest, and so it's not just what you say that's manifesting; it's what you feel that brings about the law of attraction. I mean, we won't get into all kind of detail on that today, but what I will go in as far as to say is that when you begin to understand how your mind actually works, and you know that you've got the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the thinking mind or the analytical mind, so you get to pick and choose what you believe and what you think. But the subconscious mind doesn't work that way. It's the emotional mind, And somebody says, "Well, what does this have to do with success and earning an income?" Believe me, when I was listening to Bob Proctor, and I got an opportunity to meet him and get coached and mentored by him, I had no idea how big the inner game is, and how your thought process works with the reflection of everything that you see on the outside. Didn't realize that there is a real connection, and so the subconscious mind is the emotional mind, and also it's where your self-image lives. I'll give you an example of something. Have you ever been to a movie and been emotionally moved by it? Mm-hmm. Well, consciously that movie is not real. It's lights, camera, action, cut, edit, render, right? Like, then we get it, right? So we know consciously that it's not real, but the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not, because how could you explain having a physiological response to something that consciously is not real? Like, are we crazy? Not really, right?
Yeah.
So, but what happens is that when you're watching that program and you start getting emotionally involved, the conscious mind shuts down, the subconscious mind opens up, and it becomes far more receptive to suggestion. And that's why commercials, companies will pay big money for commercial time, because they know that you're emotionally involved in a state where you're open and receptive to suggestion. And that's why they'll pay millions of dollars for 30 seconds of your attention. It makes sense?
Yes.
Because you get to choose your thoughts. Your thoughts cause your feelings, and your feelings are expressed through your body in terms of results. In terms of your action, and your actions are what produce your results. So how you feel, for example, that person who says, well, you know what, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't come from the right family, I don't have the right connections, I have no history in this. Well, my first recommendation is to first start studying people who never had the background, who should have never been successful by traditional terms. And there's a plethora of them, so if you actually start reading up on people, and a lot of people read that book, The Power of Now, by Eckhart Tolle, not realizing that this guy was suicidal. You know what I mean? When he came out, he happened to make it out of that feeling of suicide. I'm being suicidal, and he was inspired, and he wrote. And now, of course, international bestseller, hanging out with Oprahs of the world, right? Mm-hmm. And then Colonel Sanders. Some people say, "Well, I'm too old," but Harlan Sanders, the Colonel, he was a senior citizen and again suicidal. Well, not to say we should be encouraging being suicidal to bring about the inspiration. Hopefully, it doesn't have to get to that point. But the idea is that when he came up with the 11 herbs and spices, he got depressed. He was going around trying to sell his idea. People weren't taking to it at first, but then all it took was one person to say yes. Next thing you know, boom. The book Chicken Soup for the Soul. I mean, these guys were noted speakers at the time, but they went to a lot of publishers and nobody took them on. And then one of the gentlemen was on a plane ride, and he sits down. The person has to be sitting beside has a small publishing company, and they decided to take him on. After going to a publishing show they invested and paid to go to, the person who said yes to them was somebody who they least suspected.